Even when I was in the monastery up in Sacramento, I used to do this. I used to take the telescopes out. And while I was in the monastery in Sacramento, I had made an 18-incher, which is now called the little one, but it was too big to wheel around from house to house, and so we kept it in the place where I was staying in somebody else's house, and I'd go around on a bicycle and invite people to come and look through the telescope. And so when I came down to San Francisco, we brought a 12-incher from Sacramento down to San Francisco, and I became a fixture on the street at Jackson and Broderick Streets. And in those days, back in the early 70s, from 68 on, almost anybody in the Bay Area that wanted to look through a telescope knew where to go. You go to Jackson and Broderick Streets on any clear night, and you get to see what's showing, whether it's the moon or Saturn or Jupiter or Venus or whatever it is. By at least 71, we made a 24-incher, and that ran in a trailer behind the bus. The 18 went in the bus. And so we went through the national parks a great deal with all these telescopes like that. We did a great deal. The 24 has been at more than 80,000 miles in public service through the national parks, up to Canada, down to Mexico, through the Indian reservations, all over the place. Now, we went to the Grand Canyon several times, and the time before last, I think it was about 1980, the ranger asked us to keep track of how many people used the equipment. We were there for 16 days and nights, and it was 20,000 people that used the equipment. Now, we used to go to Yosemite also. The 24-incher spent more than 100 nights at Yosemite at Glacier Point. But the seeing conditions in Glacier Point are most extraordinary. They're lots better than the Grand Canyon, and they're better than any place else that I have been. That is to say, they're reliably good. Almost any night, the sky is very dark and very still, so that's a very good place for public observing. And up there, we get maybe 300 people a night. They listen to the slideshow, and then they go and look through the telescopes, and it's most extraordinary. Well, we teach usually nowadays only two kinds of classes: astronomy for children under 80 and telescope making. Your mirror's on the bottom. And then turn. And then turn. Now, towards the end of fine grinding, what I often do is to take it off and then put it back on again. Now remember, if your mirror's on the bottom, when you put it on like this. Don't do this. Put it on like this, you see, and then slide it over. And be sure that you don't wreck the edge of this. Now, often at the end, I bounce them around like this. I think you saw me do that in the video. And then turn.
How much overhang is out there, John?
What?
Much at all.
Doesn't have any overhang at all on the front.
See, these are just at the edge, but here I'm over by 1.25 inches. You have to cross the edges or you won't get it ground at the edges. Anyway, your guts will tell you what to do, I'm sure. And if your guts won't, mine will. I'd like to help people make telescopes so that there will be enough telescopes so that the people on the Earth have a chance to see what the universe looks like. It doesn't look like anything like San Francisco on a sunny day. It's made out of hydrogen and helium. It's very dark, very lonely, and very cold. And I want people to be able to see it, so there need to be more telescopes. But I also want people to be able to understand it, and that's why we teach the astronomy classes. Now, two questions arise. Since the universe is made of 92 different kinds of matter, there are two questions that arise. Of what is that matter made, and can we make one of those elements out of another? Two questions. You can answer either one you like first.
Protons, neutrons, electrons.
Protons, neutrons, and electrons. Very good. It's made out of electricity. Don't you see how screwy it is? The thing is made out of electricity. We can, of course, see the moon, and we can see the sun, and we can see some of the stars and so forth, but we've got genetic programming that covers all that. Your genes tell you how to think of the moon and how to think of lakes and how to think of rivers and how to think of mountains and how to think of people and how to think of dogs. It's all covered by your genetic programming. Now, when you look through the telescope and see the moon looking like this, the genetic programming shuts up. It has nothing to say about it. Or when you look at Saturn, you see, through a telescope, your genes have nothing to say about Saturn as seen through a telescope. And it does allow somebody to get a look out behind the curtains of his genetic programming, if you like. It is the genetic programming that keeps us seeing this universe the way it really is. Now, I'll just give you one example, you see. We look in the daytime and we think it looks as though the whole universe is bright like that. No, 200 miles up, it's pitch black. It's pitch black up there as soon as you get out of the atmosphere. It's only on the surface of a planet with a gaseous atmosphere that there's anything like daylight. Now, if you are on the Earth and the sun goes down behind the mountains, you can find your campsite. If you were on the moon and the sun went down behind the mountains, all you could see is stars. The astronauts orbiting the moon, when they're on the shady side of the moon, where they cannot see the sun, they said the only way that we can tell where the moon is that there's a circle in the sky where there aren't any stars. Now the sun is shining right through all that space. It's no farther away from the sun than we are. The sun is shining right through it and it's pitch black. It's only around the surface of the Earth, only 100 or 200 miles up, that there's anything called daylight. And people don't understand this in their guts, that they think the whole universe is made out of iron and rock with daylight in it. No! The universe is made out of hydrogen and helium, and the density of the universe is only 20 drops of water in 1 billion cubic miles. I once told a minister, Swami Shantaswarupananda, I once told him when I was serving him dinner in the monastery, I said the density of this universe is only 20 drops of water in 1 billion cubic miles. I said that's all the creation the good Lord came up with, and it's no big thing. But people do not understand this unless they look through a telescope. But if the amateurs do not solve the problem of making it possible for the public to have a look at this universe, nobody will solve that problem. The professionals cannot solve that problem. So if the general public is to see what the universe looks like, they're going to have to do it through telescopes, they're going to have to do it at night, and they're going to have to do it through amateur telescopes. There's no other way. So if, you see, there were something like 1 million sidewalk astronomers worldwide, by sidewalk astronomers I simply mean people who are willing to get their telescopes out and let their other people use them, look through them. If there were 1 million such people and a few thousand people looked through each telescope, there would be a chance for most of the people who live on this world who want to see. But you have to get it to a place where the public goes. There's no use getting it out all by yourself in the desert and then lick your chops and go to bed. That doesn't do anything for me. You see, the importance of a telescope is not on how big it is, it's not on how well made it is, it's how many people, less fortunate than you, got to look through it.
It's amazing.
It's almost a full moon. It's a waxing gibbous.
How wonderful.
If you were to fly to the moon in a rocket ship, it would take you about 60 hours, and that's what you'd see out the windshield about 45 minutes before you got there.
Why, you can see every little crevice and pit.
Just about.
Well, what a
Come see the moon. They have the
wonderful
moon over
thing.
there in a big telescope.
What a wonderful thing you people are doing.
Cool, huh?
Yeah. Whichever way you look is whichever way the moon is.